Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. As one of the longest running game franchises of all time, originally created by Muse Software and later id, with id making it the forefront of the FPS genre, being one of the core building blocks of what would eventually create one of my all-time favourites in Doom. It's fair to say without the success and hard work from id, FPS games might not be what they are today. And for that reason, I wanted to look at probably the most forgotten Wolfenstein game, simply titled Wolfenstein. This adaptation of the FPS classic from 2009, developed by the legendary Raven Software, seemingly got lost in the shuffle of all the incredible releases we had that year, from Assassin's Creed 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, Uncharted 2, Borderlands, and even Resident Evil 5. It's little wonder as to why this game was sadly overlooked at the time. Although scoring somewhat favourably with critics while being relatively enjoyed by its player base, sadly this is a game you can't easily get your hands on, as thanks to rights disputes, Wolfenstein 2009, as I will refer to it from now on, was taken down from all digital storefronts, which is why I will always prefer physical over digital. Add this to the fact that the game only sold an approximate 100,000 copies across all different platforms, and you got yourself a game that's hard to get. I'm fortunate enough to own a PS3 copy, as I did buy it back in the day, and thanks to MyAbandonware.com, I was able to actually get my hands on a working PC copy for today's video. That will look a lot better than what the 7th generation of consoles can provide. There will be a link in the description to the game if you do want to try it yourself. The plot of Wolfenstein 2009 follows BJ Blazkowicz attempting to stop the Nazis in World War II, who are using the powers of the supernatural and mutant soldiers along with other sci-fi weaponry to strengthen their stranglehold on Europe as they attempt to overthrow the world. It's about what you would expect for a Wolfenstein game, although it does have more emphasis on the occult and supernatural than the typical sci-fi beats of the previous games. Not to say that they're not there, but compared to those prior games, at least up to this point, this game is a lot more balanced in its usage of sci-fi and the supernatural. With the game mostly taking place in the fictional German town of Eisenstadt, Wolfenstein 2009 moves the old school level design into the HD era of gaming, with there being secrets behind every nook and cranny and makes you want to explore, and explore you will, as you'll spend a fair bit of time here. Though not the longest game by any means, most of the missions that BJ will be sent out on will typically be their own levels, while Eisenstadt tends to be a hub location for you to run between these missions. This is probably the first major hurdle for a lot of players, as it does feel a bit like padding, since the enemies will constantly respawn upon returning to the area, and even though it means there's always action going on, it can make the pacing a little bit slow. If I could just go from mission to mission, I think it would have helped a lot. As a hub location, the town hosts a couple different factions along with the Black Market, which I will touch on that market in a little bit. The first faction you really deal with is the Kreisau Circle, that are based off a real-life group of Germans who wanted to overthrow the regime, though not violently, at least from my understanding, with the other faction being the Golden Dawn, who are also based off a real-life group, though they are claimed to be a secret society. But if I can just look them up, it doesn't really make them a secret now, does it? They end up being nothing more than a building location for you to visit, as they don't really feel like they're impacting the world around them, which sort of sucks. Although yes, you can see them fight Nazis occasionally, it'd be nice to see them actually control an area and have to repel the attacks more so than just when you show up. And although these factions are based on real historical groups, to my knowledge the Nazis were not ever confirmed to actually believe and study the occult. At least from my research, which was very brief to be fair, it's just the speculation and arguments of some historians, and there's no concrete evidence to say otherwise. With that said though, the choice to use the occult as a narrative device makes Wolfenstein way more interesting. It's not that it wasn't interesting to begin with, but this is really damn cool, which was really refreshing, especially by 2009, since we probably had maybe 100 different World War II shooters with them all feeling basically the same. Adding sci-fi elements to the supernatural along with the real-life elements like the majority of the game's arsenal, it made the combat so much more than just another FPS. Functionally, most FPS games sadly are the same, as when it comes to the combat there's only so many ways a player can aim and shoot at enemies. But thanks to the supernatural abilities we gain access to along with some sci-fi weaponry, Wolfenstein 2009 is still a blast to play. Starting off with the abilities you unlock throughout the game, BJ gets access to the Veil, which allows him to see things that aren't always visible to the naked eye, along with highlighting enemies making them easier to see. BJ also gets a shield that will tank damage for him, as well as tank environmental damage, allowing him to solve puzzles. He'll also gain access to the ability to slow down time, which works how you would expect, and basically a rage ability allowing him to shoot through shields and do more damage in general. All of these abilities are more than just combat focused though. As mentioned, they can be used to solve puzzles as well as traversal of the game's world, allowing you to find a lot of those hidden secrets, so you're going to want to make use of these powers as you explore. Combine these abilities with the impressive arsenal of over 8 weapons and you won't find yourself running out of any winning combinations anytime soon. Consisting of the Kar-98, MP40, MP43, flamethrower, particle cannon, rocket launcher, Tesla gun, and the Lycan Frost 44, they all work how you would expect. Add the ability to upgrade them to your liking through the black market, as I mentioned earlier, and these guns become incredibly powerful. I do want to mention very quickly that the scope for the MP43 did not work on my playthrough, and this could be a compatibility issue with Windows 11 versus when this game was made, but I do think it's worth noting just in case you try to do it and it doesn't want to work for you. The upgrade system goes beyond just the weapons though, as the abilities themselves can be upgraded, making them more powerful and have more utility overall. And you're going to want to make sure you have all your weapons and abilities available to you, because this game has several boss battles. Now, they're not necessarily the hardest boss battles in any game by any means, but they are fun little mechanical change-ups to what you've been doing up to this point. So how do you afford these upgrades at the market? Well, you're going to need to find gold and treasures that are hidden throughout the levels. This means Wolfenstein 2009 really likes to reward you for exploring. It wants you to treat it like an old school game. On top of keeping an eye out for gold though, you need to watch out for tomes, as they will unlock more ability upgrades at the black market, as well as intel, although intel isn't necessarily as important, as it mainly serves the purpose of filling out the game's lore, at least for what's going on outside of your little world that BJ is a part of. They're all pretty well voice acted as well, which is actually pretty surprising, although their delivery can be a little bit campy.
Dr. Kohler, why are so many guards being stationed around the large tanks? The tanks are empty, aren't they? I realize General Ladetts is personally overseeing this equipment, but I would think that these soldiers would be better used to secure the firing range instead.
But if they were trying to be overly serious, I think it would have fallen flat and failed to convey the overall feeling the developers were trying to go for. BJ is played by Peter Jessup, who you might know as the voice of Albert Wesker from the Resident Evil 2002 remake, and he delivers a very by-the-book macho man type performance. And by no means is that any disrespect to Peter, but I think BJ kind of comes off a little too generic for his own good. Speaking of generic, you would expect this game to have a pretty generic sound design, however that's not necessarily the case. I would say some of the enemies do sound how you would expect for a 2009 World War II shooter. However, the guns themselves sound really damn good, since they have enough punch to them to not get lost in the game's OST, which is great because the OST itself isn't what I would say is particularly great. I don't think it's bad by any means, I actually think it's very solid. It just doesn't do anything to inspire me to want to kill Nazis. It feels more like a movie soundtrack than a video game soundtrack. Wolfenstein 2009 is a fun action romp, and as long as you don't expect something crazy, you're gonna have a good time. It's not too long to beat, and it's not overly difficult, although in saying that there are a couple difficulty spikes to watch out for. With the amount of secrets and great level design, you could easily come back to this game again and again and again, especially if you're someone who likes to 100% games. So with that, lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, it brings us to the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the Wolfenstein game you maybe didn't play. So if you want to give it a go, as I said at the start, there will be a link in the description to download it and try it for yourself, as sadly there is no official way to get your hands on it. I highly recommend giving it a go if you do like FPS games, or if you just like the old boom shooter style of games. It's not as quick paced as some of those older ones, so just keep that in mind. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button. If you want to go that extra step, you can hit the subscribe button. If you want to go that extra mile, you can support me on Ko-fi from just $1 a month like these lovely people here. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.